Great. Hello, good afternoon or good morning or whenever you're watching me. Thank you and welcome to my webinar, Who Holds You? Finding Your Direction. And I'm delighted to have you here and know that you've given me 60 minutes of your time to work through what I hope will be a really, really important session for you and that you can take away and a tool that you can revisit and use. Now, just to let you know that I actually had a little faux pas when I was recording this, and I failed to record it during my live session. So I had a community of a significant number of ladies who were all on there. And part of the experience was around being interactive and sharing their thoughts and feelings. So obviously this session, I'm going to walk you through the process of using the CALMER Growth Compass. However, please note that you won't have the client and the community interaction that we had on the live webinar. So apologies, but I hope that there will be something that you can take away and use as you go through this. But for me, I think the fact that you've carved out an hour to sit and watch tells me something about where you are right now. And I think this session is going to give you something really useful to take away. So a warm welcome to Who Holds You? Your Direction. And I'm Georgie, and for the next hour, this space is entirely yours to sit and focus and reflect on and use as a bit of a journaling tool. So a little bit about me before I get started. I've been a head of school. I've worked at senior leadership level. I've worked at board level. I work within education. I provide coaching and supervision for other coaches and safeguarding leads, and also strategic support for small founder businesses, women in leadership, people that are navigating values-led situations, whether they're a leader or part of a values-led organisation, and also people that are in transition. So it may be that you're at a point where you're looking for a new career and you want to get really focused and targeted on your goals. So just a little bit about me. I've worked also for Cambridge Assessment and worked in international schools as part of my career. And I now work for myself and my business, Avant Consultancy, which has been established for a number of years now and has enabled me to actually help strategically support individuals and organisations to move forward meaningfully. Okay, so just to move my slides on. So as you arrive into this session, I'd like you to spend a couple of moments just thinking about how you are arriving today and what's the energy that you are feeling in this space at the moment. So I'm just going to give you a couple of moments to dive in with this really simple question. And in the community chat, I actually invited everybody to share how they were feeling. So, for example, they were sharing simmering, motivated, tired, hot, because it was one of the hottest days of the year for May. So actually, these were all great examples. But I just want you to come up with one word or short phrase, which doesn't need to be overthink, just what's actually true right now for you at the moment. Thank you for that. Okay, so we'll move on now. So why does this session exist? So I've just shared a little bit about myself, but my work primarily centres around supporting people and organisations to grow in ways that feel calm, are sustainable and are human. And I work mainly with women leaders, educators, safeguarding professionals, coaches, charities, and purpose-led organisations, all of who I would think you would agree are carrying a lot. And often they're trying to do that while supporting everybody else around them. So I've shared a bit about my experience, but over the last 2 decades, I've worked across education, wellbeing. I've led on developing senior mental health lead certificate for schools. I've led on safeguarding, coaching and strategy and roles, including head of school and as a managing director, trainer and coach. But more than that, any title, the heart of my work has always been about helping people find clarity, confidence, and steadiness, particularly if they're in a complex situation or transition. I'm especially passionate about emotionally intelligent leadership and reflective supervision and practice, and creating those spaces and environments where people can thrive without losing themselves in the process, because it's very easy to do. So a lot of what I do is about actually grounding you back and reflecting in the belief that we do our best work when people feel safe, supported, and genuinely seen. I like to think that my approach is warm, reflective, and practical, and deeply values-led. I believe growth doesn't have to come from pressure or burnout. It can come from clarity, connection, and small steps forward. So often I'll get you to reflect back and step back from where the situation is and think more calmly and with perspective. So whether you're here today as an individual, as a leader, as a practitioner, a founder, or you're just simply looking for some fresh perspective and encouragement, I really hope this session leaves you feeling a bit lighter and clearer and reassured that you don't have to carry everything alone. Okay. So part of what I've developed over the years with Avant Consultancy is the CALMER framework. And as you can see, it's on this screen here. So CALMER is something that I've developed over the years of working with coaching and working with leaders and women in leadership and safeguarding. And it actually sits at the heart of everything I do at Avant. It's a framework that's designed to help you sustainably reflect on where you are, identify what needs working on, and help support values-led growth. It's not a hustle push situation. It's very much about really being clear and calm. And I find that taking this approach actually makes really embedded momentum and long-lasting change. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. So the CALMER framework, each letter stands for something. So surprise, surprise, I've got it up on the screen here. But together we're actually going to work through all 6 areas. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to score yourself on these areas and also enable you to reflect on how you're feeling at the moment and what's coming up for you. So the 6 areas that I work on are connect and clarify, awareness and alignment, learn and listen, maintain a momentum, embedding, and reflect and resilience. And today we're going to use this as a compass. So not the traditional 4 north, south, east, west compass, more of a wider compass. But this is a way of mapping where you are right now so that you can leave with 1 or 2 really clear focuses for the month ahead. So this tool is really useful to come back to and keep revisiting at the end of a month when you know you're approaching your next stages. And this isn't about adding any more to your plate. It's about getting really honest and really clear, and then actually really, really intentional about your situation and what you want to focus on for the next month. So what I did as part of the webinar that I delivered live was I dropped the PDF in the chat. And so you will have a copy in the webinar email of the PDF, which is editable, and you can put your notes and comments in there. But honestly, a piece of paper and a pen is fine as well, because you can go through this process and score yourself as you go along. So if you haven't got access to a computer and you don't want to sit and type it all out, or you're on your phone, then a pen and paper is absolutely fine to walk through this process as well. So let's start with the C, surprise, surprise. So connect and clarify. And the focus here is actually about slowing down to really reconnect with what matters most to you. And I tend to find that with values-led leaders, they often lose sight of what their purpose is, what they're trying to do, what their meaningful work is. So this is a really good starter for you to think about slowing down and reflecting on actually what matters most. So for example, if you're a school or an educator or a tutor, then you would find that I would hope ideally what matters most is the outcomes and the safety and security of your students. alongside that is your tutoring or your tutoring organisation. In a business, it would be your clients, but it's yourself and being successful and moving forward. And a charity, the reconnection is actually giving back and making sure that you're making a difference and contributing to the charity you're there to support. So they're just some examples of reconnecting with what matters most. And often, as an individual, that can also be about your friends and your family and giving yourself the time and the space to look after yourself and be healthy and well. So question 1, I want you to start by using a scoring system. And this scoring system is 1 to 10. And we're going to continue to use that over a number of questions, 12 questions, as we walk through this process. And I want you to think about answering these questions really, really honestly, without any kind of what right or wrong answers are, because there are no right or wrong answers. This is about what's coming up for you at the moment. So question 1 is, how connected do you feel with what actually matters most in your work or in your life right now? So if you imagine you've got a sliding scale with 1 and 10, 1 would represent you feel completely lost away from what actually matters most in your work or life. And 10 is that you feel really crystal clear and really connected with what actually matters for you in your life at the moment. So they're the areas that we have listed down. And I want you to spend a couple of moments just giving yourself a number between 1 and 10 about where you feel about your connection with what actually matters at the moment. So I'll just pause for a moment for you to answer that. And then question 2 is, how well are you prioritising the right things, not just the urgent ones? So when I talk about urgent ones, we all love an email inbox and we all get driven by the constant emails that are coming in, or the WhatsApp messages, or the social media channels that people have, all those sort of notifications that come through and demand our attention immediately. So I want you to think about, honestly, how well are you prioritizing the right things, the important things, what actually matters to you, not just the urgent ones. So if you look at your scoring scale here, we'd have 1 as that you react constantly to your notifications that are coming through. I just leant over and turned my phone off. And 10 is intentionally, you always think about the right things and you're not distracted and you're not moved or clear and moving away from what you have in front of you and what's important. I'm just going to pause for a moment and allow you to take your time and be honest with that as well. And again, there are no right or wrong answers here. Wonderful. Okay, so the next step is that we are then going to start to do some reflection on this area. And so for each of the letters of the CALMER framework, I'm going to invite you to write your thoughts freely. Just a couple of minutes just to sit down and write about your answers and what's coming up for you. So my first reflection question for you is around the C. So what is currently taking up most of your mental space, most of your thoughts and your energy and your time? And is it actually what needs your attention? And I'm just going to give you a couple of moments to write freely about this and think about it. And when you're ready, I want you also to add up your score for the 2 areas that you gave yourself down there. And you will have a notes page on the end of the PDF that I provided you, or just add the score next to your C as you work through it. I'm just going to give you a couple of moments to do that. And I'm also going to organise to take my hand down from my presentation. It's a new function from Zoom that they really love you to engage with things. So it does it for you, which is not always the most helpful thing, is it? Okay, apologies if you're watching this, because I'm recording on my own, I'm not able to bring my hand down, but The wonders of technology, we love that, don't you? But it shows that it's honest and it's real for you here. Okay, wonderful. So the next thing that we're going to move on to now is awareness and alignment. So this is the A of the CALMER framework. So understanding what drives you and what needs to shift is really, really key. When you've first identified what you're connected with or what you're really clear on. And this one is actually about understanding what drives you and what might need to shift in that process. And again, we've got 2 questions here around those areas. So number 1 is, how well do your daily actions reflect your core values right now? So I talked a bit about working as a values-led organisation or an individual, or having really strong values that you feel that you want to adhere to. So how well do your daily actions day to day really reflect your core values right now? And again, with the same scoring system, 1 to 10, 1 is completely misaligned, and 10 is that you feel really fully aligned with your actions and your values right now. And I'm going to try and get my hand to go down, but it's not going to do that. So we've tried all options with my hand, so you're just going to have to ignore that. Okay, so hopefully you've managed to write a score for that. I'll just wait quietly while you answer that as well. And then question 2, how aware are you of the patterns or habits that might be holding you back? So we've all got patterns and habits: picking up our phones, reaching for the glass of wine at the end of the day, working too long and not finishing on time. So really stretching ourselves and our work-life balance. So how aware are you of the patterns or habits that might be holding you back? And again, on that same 1 to 10 scoring system, 1 is on autopilot and 10 is that you're deeply self-aware of what the patterns and habits are that might be holding you back. So give yourself again a score 1 to 10 out of that. Excellent. Okay, and then thinking again about awareness and alignment, here's your reflection question for that area. And this is, where are you doing something because you feel you should, rather than because it feels genuinely right? So I know on the call that I had in the webinar that I had a number of clients who were actually doing the right thing and donating and giving their time up. And actually, was that really genuinely right and really helping them or serving them? Some cases, yes. In other cases, not so much. And what I'd like you to do is, once you've answered that question about where are you doing something because you feel you should, rather than because it feels right, name one area of that misalignment and what would it mean to actually be realigned? What action would you need to take to realign yourself so that you're actually doing something because it's genuinely right? I'm going to give you a couple of moments to fill that reflection question in. And again, please don't edit yourself here. Just let whatever comes up, write this down. And when I mean by edit, it is often we're taught to write down what we think we should write and not actually what is coming up for us. So just make sure that you are writing what's naturally coming up. So take a moment to write that. And for those of you who are watching this back, if you'd like to also add up your scores for your A and either note them on your piece of paper or on the back of the PDF if you want to as you go along, or on the page somewhere. So circle your scores on the A results as well. Wonderful. Okay, so now we're moving into the learn and listen area, and hopefully you're getting a bit of a rhythm around this and how this can really help you set your intentions for the month. So we want to make sure that we're turning our reflections that we've just gathered from the C and the L, into really learning and deeper understanding of what we understand about ourselves. So there are again 2 questions here, same scoring system with slightly different categories, but I'll just share these with you. So question 1 is, how much space do you actually create to reflect and learn from your experiences? Now, one thing that I really taught myself recently, and I've been practicing on a daily basis, is making sure that I journal and try and complete at least an A4 page of journaling each day about what's coming up for me at the time. And sometimes I start and I write on the piece of paper, I have no idea what I'm going to say today. And then things start to come out and we write and we capture all of those. So that's what we mean by reflecting and learning from our experiences. Or it could be after we've had a call, we sit down and we think about what came up for that client we were working with, or we had a call and whether we handled it well and whether we could actually naturally do anything better. What did we learn from that situation? So 1 on this scoring system is that you don't give yourself any space at all. And 10 is that you've got real, rich, reflective practice that you do on a daily basis and reflect after each session. The part of coaching practice encourages you to actually reflect on every time you have a client and what you learned from it and how you can perhaps manage a situation better. So again, you're taught as coaching practitioners to make sure that you provide yourself with reflective spaces to really improve yourself. Question 2. How well are you listening to yourself and to what your energy and instincts are telling you? And again, the scoring system is 1 to 10. Number 1 is you're completely ignoring what's coming up, what the gut instinct is saying, what your energy levels are. You're carrying on working even though you're absolutely exhausted and you need to take 10 minutes and go and wander in the garden. 10 would be that you feel deeply attuned. So whenever you feel like you need a break or that you have an energy drop, then make sure that you write a 10 down for that if you're always really good at that. So I'm just going to sit silently for a couple of moments and allow you just to answer those questions. Wonderful. Okay. And then the reflective question around the learn and listening. So this is quite strong and really, really pushes you here. So I am going to sit in silence for a couple of moments and let you really digest and think about what you're writing, but please write freely. So the question is here, what have you learned about yourself in the last few months or 90 days? And have you actually honoured that learning? And when I mean by honoured, have you celebrated it? Have you allowed it? Have you recognised it and learned from it and made sure that it's celebrated in a positive way? And the second part of this question is, what is this season of your life right now, whether it's transition or leadership or teams or organisation, what is this season of life trying to teach you, do you think? So I'm going to sit quietly here and I'm going to allow you a couple of minutes to complete that. And then once you finish that, make sure you also note down your scores for your scores out of your results page on the L, or jot it down on your piece of paper. I'll just give you a couple of moments. Wonderful. So hopefully you're getting a sense of how this process, the CALMER framework, works and how you can use it and utilise it within your business. And everything that I deliver when I work in my strategic sessions, in my coaching sessions, in my supervision sessions, or my new CALMER circle sessions are built around this framework. And it's taught to encourage people to really step back and reflect on where they are at the moment and actually really start to gain momentum, goals, focus, how they're going to keep that going, and also the reflection piece at the end. So you'll be surprised to know that the M of the CALMER framework is either about maintaining where you're at because you're happy where you're at, or how you're going to gain momentum. And so they are two distinct things, but they're all about actually being strategic and building steady, values-led progress without any pressure. So it's about having momentum and moving forward, but doing that in a sustainable manner, but also maintaining and actually making sure that you are being consistent with those positive habits and everything that you've learned about yourself along the way. So that's what we mean by maintain and momentum. Okay, so about stripping back the pressure and making sure that everything we do is sustainable. So you'll be surprised to realize that question 1 is, how steady and sustainable does your current pace feel? And again, you've got the scoring system here. So the scoring system is that your pace is that you're running on empty, you're really, really tired, you need a holiday, or life keeps on lifing, and actually you're really, really struggling. And 10 is about being sustainably energized. So you're really enthusiastic, you've got loads of momentum, you're really excited about where you want to be and moving forward, and you really, really are in an energized state. So score yourself there between 1 and 10. And then once you've done that, question 2 is, how much meaningful forward progress are you making on what actually matters? So this isn't about getting an empty email box, although it could be getting an empty email box is what actually matters at the moment. It's not about whether you've done 11 billion posts on social media for this week to make sure that people still know that you exist. It's not that you have actually made sure that you are stuck and you're in a situation and you're spinning and you're in a job that you're not happy with, or you're frantically trying to look for something else, but you're not actually making any progress or moving forward. So I want you to think about, an example would be something that actually matters could be that you stepped away and you spent time with your children, and that you recognize that they needed you at that moment and you actually stopped and stepped away. So that's meaningful progress. These are all elements of our lives that all juggle, and we all have the different plates that keep spinning. And this is a way of making sure we focus on the things that actually matter to us, and they will be what you've already identified. So on the scaling system here, 1 is that you're completely stuck, you're going round and round and round or spinning, and you just can't seem to make any sense or move forward, making any real progress. And 10 is really clear momentum. 10 is about being really driven, really clear. You've got a strong plan, whatever that is, for whatever role or goal you're focusing on getting, whether you're trying to really grow your business, whether you're launching a new product or service, and you're really clear about how you're going to do it and what that looks like. It's getting really, really clear on that momentum. So once you've done those scoring, we're then going to move on to your reflection question for maintain and momentum. So this reflection question, again, is quite deep. But one thing, or it could be 2 or 3, if you moved it forward this month, and we're thinking now about the month ahead, would make the biggest difference to how you feel. So what 1, 2 or 3 things, if you move them forward this month, will make the biggest difference to how you feel. And I'd like you to name it. And then I want you to write down the one first small step you can make for that thing. So again, give yourself some time, write freely and take a moment. Lovely, that's great. And once you've done that, again, add up your scores for the M, write them on your piece of paper or add them onto the results sheet at the end. But that's great, wonderful. We're then moving on to the E, and hopefully you're getting into the rhythm of this now. So this is about embedding, really thinking about, you've identified those small steps and changes. So letting the good things become lasting habits and rhythms. So Question 1 is, how well are the positive changes and new habits actually sticking for you? 1 is nothing sticking. Whatever I do, I give it up. I reach for the chocolate. I have the glass of wine. I carry on working late. I don't get out of bed. So they're things where your positive changes and new habits that you intentionally want to have aren't sticking. And 10 is that they're deeply embedded. They're now becoming a practice that you do on a daily basis. So they're actually becoming a habit. And they often say that you need to spend 10,000 hours before something really becomes a deeper habit. So I've got a long way to go before I finish my 10,000 hours of journaling, but hopefully at some point that will become a really deep embedded practice for me. And once you've scored that one, the next question is, how much have you protected the habits and practices that sustain you? So think about any existing habits or practices that you have, or new ones that you want to start doing, and think about how you always adhere to those. So 1 is that they always fall away and that you never actually stick to anything, or 10 is that you'll consistently protect the habits that you have already. So sit there and score those areas. Okay, and then you'll be surprised to know we've got your next reflection question. So for this question is, what are you still treating as optional that you know needs to become non-negotiable? So is there something that you're doing, you're half-heartedly, and you're not actually truly embedding and committing to do it? So write down anything that you feel that you're treating as an optional process. And what one habit or practice would change everything if you protected it in the month ahead? So if you committed to do something solidly for 1 month, what would it be? And how would it, perhaps you might want to note down how that would change everything if you protected it this month. Just going to give you a few moments to write that down. But again, there are no right or wrong answers here. And once you've done that, I'd also invite you to do your scoring of your your Embed scores, and jot them down either on your piece of paper or on your workbook if you're working through that. And then we're on to the last one. And you'll be surprised to know that the last one begins with R and is reflect and resilience. And it's not and finally, it's a really, really key part. Pausing to notice your change and you're strengthening your capacity and what you've achieved already is really part of building your resilience. So that's why it's always important to reflect on how things have gone, and also helps build your resilience and your awareness of actually what you've achieved. How many people watching this now have achieved some incredible things over time, but we never actually take the time to stop and celebrate what we've actually achieved? So question 1 that I want you to scale on is, how well are you noticing and acknowledging the progress you've already made? And score 1 is never pause to notice. You're just constantly moving and getting on and not actually taking the time to really appreciate what you've achieved. And 10 is that you naturally, regularly celebrate how you are feeling. So there, question 1. And then question 2, how resilient and resourced do you feel right now? You're not just coping, but you genuinely feel sustained. So I want you to think about your 1 to 10 scoring here. And 1 would be that you aren't feeling resilient and resourced, you're feeling genuinely depleted. Or 10 is that you're feeling fully resourced, fully energized, ready to go, and in the best situation, genuinely to move forward. And I'd like to congratulate you if you're a 10 out of 10 on that area. I'll just give you a couple of moments to do that. Okay, and your final reflection question for this section is around the resilience and reflection. And I really want you not to rush this one. This one really, really matters because it's part of building that resilience and that strength and that reflection. So, what would you tell your past self from 3 months ago? So, currently at the moment, we're in May, if you're watching this now, and I am thinking about myself from 3 months ago in February that I know now. So what would you tell your past self from 3 months ago that you know now? And that would be that you've achieved delivering this webinar, for example, that you're building a community and that people want to work with you and you've got regular clients. And I want you to name 3 things that you've done well in the last 90 days. I want you to sit down and write those down, celebrate your achievements in the last 90 days and let yourself actually read them and take them in. And I'm going to give you a good 3 minutes silence to sit and let yourself absorb those. And for those of you that have already written down your 3 things, how great does that feel? Look at those. Let yourself actually take those in. This really matters. This is what you've achieved in the last 3 months. So imagine if you carry on that maintenance and that momentum, what you can achieve in the next month if you stick to what you've committed to, that you're aligned to, that you've learned from, and that you're actually truly embedding. So what I'd like you to do is write your R score on the results page, and then I can celebrate and congratulate that another thing that you've achieved is you've gone through the CALMER framework and you've done all 6. So that's another thing that you can stick on your list of what you've achieved already as well. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is capture all of your scores, if you haven't done already, on your workbook. But so this is part of the step 1 process. So you're going to transfer your scores here. So I've got a score out of 10, but it could be a score out of 20 because actually you've got 2 questions for each area. So, but score yourself from what you've got coming up. It could be, if you're a good mathematician, you divide what your average score is and think about where you were for connect and clarify, awareness and alignment, where you measured yourself and scaled yourself and learn and listen, how you scaled yourself for maintaining momentum, how you scaled for yourself for embed, and how you scaled yourself for reflect and resilience. And alongside that, I'd like you to spend a moment writing 1 word that captures where you are right now with connect and clarify. So for example, you could put connected or clear or confused or unconnected. They're all words that capture where you are at the moment. Again, another word for awareness and alignment. You could be aligned, you could be misaligned. You could be completely aware, you could be confused, you could be unclear. So they're all words that you could use around that. Learning and listening. Are you completely learning and listening to yourself? What word would come up for you there that captures where you are right now? Maintain a momentum. A great word that normally comes up around that area would be motivated. Equally, it could be unmotivated. It could be pressured. It could be confused. It could be unsustainable. All of these words are words that you can use to capture where your scoring system is putting you now. Again, another word for embed. How are you truly embedding what you know and really building those habits and those practices and those reflective practices every day? And then the most important one I personally think is this ability to reflect and be resilient. And what word captures you right now? How you're feeling having worked through that. And I want you to take a moment once you've written those words down to look at your 6 scores, and I want you to identify which one is the lowest score. You may have 1 or 2 just to note down. And now, step 2 is I want you to write down what your lowest score was and what the category was. And that could be 1 or 2. And actually, when I recorded the webinar as part of the community, I got everyone to share their letters, where they were at the moment and what was coming up for them. And each of them were able to share some great examples of where they were and what they were doing, which included book launches, redundancy, supporting an ADHD child, building a new business, feeling really connected and wanting to take their business to another stage, looking to develop a new career. So I want you to also answer these questions as well. What did you notice about your lowest score area? What surfaced, what shifted even slightly for you? Because I'd like you to think and make some notes down here as well about what that means for you. But what this tells you that this is going to be your CALMER focus area for the month that's coming ahead. Doesn't mean that you're failing there. It means that this is where a small intentional shift is really going to make the biggest difference for you. And I love the fact that during the community, we had so much honesty and chat in the box. So I'm sad that I forgot to press the big red button, because there's some real beautiful stories that were coming out and real commitments for people moving forward. Okay, so again, before we moved on, we went around the room and I encouraged everybody to celebrate their strengths, and I wanted them to do that together. So what I encouraged them to do was share with them their one focus area from the compass and commit to the very first small step they were going to take. So obviously, if you're watching this back, I would invite you to do that now. So what's your one focus area from the compass? It could be 2 if you're feeling brave for June. And what are the next small steps that you're going to take to make sure that you actually really commit to doing that? And that's going to be becoming your focus for the next month ahead. And then I'm also going to invite you to think about what's the one thing that shifted for you today? Even if it's tiny, even if it's just a question that's coming up for you, because there's no right or wrong answers here. But it could be that actually you've reflected back and you realize you've achieved so much in the last 90 days. Or it could be that you realize that you've been too busy lifing and actually being driven by an email inbox that isn't actually going to achieve where you want it to be. So maybe you've been distracted too much with social media, or maybe you've been busy doing the important things, which is spending your life with friends and family. So they're all good things. And I want you to think about what you've noticed, what has shifted for you, even if it's a tiny, tiny thing. So when we had the community, when this was live, people were able to open up and share those on the chat box in the community. And step 4, and again, this is really key, and I can't stress this enough, is about the one that I really don't want you to skip. I want you to acknowledge your strength around the CALMER framework. I want you to look at your scores again, and I want you to identify your highest score. It could be that you've got 2 that are really great. Often you find people come up with C and A or E and R, but it's interesting to see that comes up. But that's your foundation. That's telling you that what you're doing well right now, in the middle of everything. And I want you to write a sentence just quickly about what that strength gives you and how it's serving you and why it matters. Because that strength is your superpower. And that's going to be the superpower that you want to continue and maintain as you move on into the next month ahead. So that's what you're doing really, really well right now in the middle of everything. Write that sentence down about what that strength gives you, how it serves you, and why it matters. I'm just going to pause for a couple of moments. And I think we're so quick to find the gap, aren't we? To think about our negatives, the thing that needs work on. This is the moment to actually really acknowledge what's strong. So let yourself really own this and celebrate it and mean it. And what I was able to do is encourage people on the live webinar to share this back. So you've gone through the CALMER Growth Compass, and these are your results. And these are the areas and key things that you have worked through to identify what you want to focus on for the next month ahead. And this is what it actually feels like to work with me. I do lots of different activities like this on the sessions that I work with individually, and also will be on my CALMER Circle session. So I hope that you found the CALMER Growth Compass a really helpful tool. And as I said, it's something, it's yours to take away. You can revisit it regularly whenever you feel that you require that reflection or that revisiting tool. That's the whole purpose of this session today. And I've mentioned also that there are other ways that people can work with me. So you've just worked through the entire CALMER Growth Compass, and you've just worked through the CALMER framework, and you've rated yourself really, really honestly across those 6 areas. You've named your focus and you've identified your strengths, and that's huge. So congratulations. And here's what I want you to know, that you've got really clear on where you want to be, and it doesn't have to stop here, because knowing where you are is the beginning. Knowing what you need to focus on for the month ahead is the start, but then working through it consistently requires a bit of support, maybe a bit of accountability. And that's where actually things shift and you really make the best momentum. So I'd like to invite you to join the CALMER Circle community, and I'm launching it this month, and I've already got a few members that have joined. And it's a monthly membership where I will work through this framework together, not this exact CALMER Growth Compass, but it will actually be a process of sessions where you work alongside me every single month. There's 2 live sessions a month, which are recorded if life gets in the way, because I recognise that happens, and you can watch back later. So the 2 live sessions, there'll be one which is 90 minutes at the beginning of the month, where we really truly get clear on your goals and your focus. And then that's called the set session. And the settle session is the middle of the month to revisit your goals, find out what progress you've made, and move you forward for the rest of the month. So really helping to drive you forward and gain momentum. Alongside that, I've got a private Telegram community, and this is going to be built of like-minded women, all who have been on the call today, all have getting it. So understand that how life is, but actually want to approach things in a supportive, calm, steady manner, and want to strip back all of the noise that goes on around them. So the Telegram community will be where we share and celebrate those areas and how we achieve, and there'll be challenges, etc., going through. There'll also be regular reflection prompts, strategy and sessions and ideas and thoughts, and I will be personally voice noting back and forth with all of you on that group community, and a way of supporting each other and sharing our successes. And the idea around the CALMER Circle is a steadiness that comes from not doing it alone. It's an online community that's really going to be private and secure and safe to help support and hold you. The other thing that I truly believe is that it isn't contracted. So I don't want you to feel that you're locked into being on the CALMER Circle community. You stay as long as it serves you. You stay as long as you need it. And then when you're ready, when you've progressed or moved forward, or you feel like you want to revisit or return at any point, that's when you can do so. And I'm delighted to say that I'm actually doing this at a founder place rate. So that's why I've got a few people already on it, because I've spoken to them personally. But founding places are open right now, and they're £65 a month. And our first session together is going to be on the 2nd of June, which is just around the corner. If you're watching this back, it's okay. You can still catch up, and I will still do an onboarding session for you if you're not able to make the 2nd of June. But we will also be recording all of their sessions. But if today felt useful, and if something shifted even a little bit, then the circle is the place to keep that going. So the links on your screen here is in my website, avantconsultancy.co.uk, and CALMER Circle membership. And I'd love to see you there. I'm also going to share the details, and it will be in the emails and notes when you found it as well. But we're coming to the end of our time together, and I want to tell you something so positive about here. We are building a membership and a community that's really, truly going to support values-led women, wherever you come from, whatever your walk of life is, however you're feeling, whatever's being thrown at you and life is lifing, whether that's building your new business, whether it's being a team leader and working in a leadership role, whether it's looking for a new career position. We will be here and we will be supporting you, and I will be driving that forward. And I hope whatever you do next, I hope today gave you some time, some space, and something real to work with. So you showed up for yourself this morning, and I want to congratulate you for that. That matters more than you know. And thank you so much for being here. And please take care of yourselves.